What is up guys, welcome back to Lazy Skater. In this video I'm going to describe and explain to you guys different board widths and choosing the right board width for you. And I've got a few boards here which I'm going to show you guys and then talk you through what I think they're best for. So before I start, what I want to say is that there is no specific board width for your height, your shoe size or anything like that, so don't believe anything that people say. Board size is mainly just down to personal preference and it's a case of just experimenting with different sizes. That being said though, there are certain board shapes and sizes that are better for some things and maybe not others, so I'm going to just talk you through a few that I've got here and hopefully this helps you all out. The first one I've got here is actually pretty crazy. This was the first deck that I was ever learning on, and I think this is a 725, which is just unreal how narrow that is. Yeah, so pretty sure this is a 725 or maybe even a 75. Incredibly narrow deck, and this is one of the first decks I was trying to learn on. It's an old Think deck and it's pretty battered by this point. It's still skatable, to be honest. There's a few stress fractures in the top, but I am actually thinking about doing a video trying to skate this again because it would be interesting. So 725 or 775, I mean, this is a really thin board. It's going to be amazing for techie stuff like flip tricks and like flips into manuals and that kind of stuff, because smaller decks in general are lighter, so that's going to make things a lot easier under your foot. But because it's narrower, that means there's less real estate under your feet. It may feel a bit odd, especially if you're learning. And it's going to be harder to land tricks because there's just not as much board to land on. So a 725 or 775 underneath 8, it really is quite a specialist size that. I would say definitely do not start on this if you're a beginner skater. Start on something wider, and if you feel like you need to go down this far, which is pretty crazy, then do that when you've got a bit more skill and you've developed your skills a little bit more. This is definitely not the sort of deck size for people that want to do big gaps and stair sets, that kind of thing. A bigger deck is going to suit you better for that. At the start of the video I mentioned that there's no specific rules, but as a general rule I would say that smaller decks are more useful for techie stuff and bigger decks are going to be better for gaps and stairs and that kind of thing. So that's the 725 or whatever size this is. A crazy small deck, and it's actually really not that wide either. So we'll move on from that one and I'll get out the one which I'm currently using. I'm going to change, but we'll talk about this for now. This is an 8.5, which is kind of a sort of standard size for a deck. It's round about the standard size for a deck. Anything between 8 and 8.5 I would say is probably the most popular now in terms of a popsicle shape. An 8.5 is a little bit on the bigger side, so with that you're going to get a bit more weight. You've got wider trucks as well obviously, so because of that your board's going to be heavier as well. So there's a nice wide surface to land on, to land tricks on if you're doing stairs like I mentioned, or if you're doing big gaps a lot, if that's your style of skating. This size deck is going to be awesome for you because you're going to have a lot of board under your feet and it's going to be really stable. I would say that an 8.5 as well is going to be decent for transition too. So if you want to skate transition but you want to stay on a popsicle shape, you don't want to skate a shaped deck, then the 8.5 is going to be a really good size for you as well. If we just go back a little bit and talk about the smaller sizes, so 8 to sort of 8.25, I would say that's a really popular size at the moment. 8 to 8.25 is round about where I'm going to go next with my next deck after this one, and even up to 8.38 as well. That's going to give you a kind of best of both worlds situation where it's not too heavy, but it's a bit bigger than an 8, obviously, and it's a bit smaller than this, so it's a nice compromise. And if you are going down to a smaller size, it may feel a bit weird for the first couple of sessions, but you do quickly get used to it. So 8 to 8.5, that's going to be awesome for park and like plaza skating, and also for street as well, and gaps. I would say anything over an 8 is going to be decent for stair sets and that kind of thing. Obviously the wider it is, the more stable it's going to be. And then yeah, towards the top end, the 8.5s or even a 9 popsicle, that's really going to be for transition skating. So I wouldn't use anything smaller than an 8 for transition if you're specifically into transition, and I think 8.5 is probably as big as you need to go really, unless you want to go to a shaped deck or unless you have some sort of specialist preference that you like a very wide deck. So moving on to the final deck which I'm going to show you, this is a crazy deck. This is the Eric Winkowski signature model from Santa Cruz. This is actually a 10.35 at its widest point, which is here to here. So I love the old school stuff, and this is something that I skate now and again. I tend to stick to popsicle, but when I just want an old school blast around doing bonuses and that kind of stuff, this is the deck which I set up. So this is a very specific shape. It's awkward for flip tricks and things like that. That doesn't mean it's not possible to land flip tricks on this. I've landed kick flips, tray flips, pop shove-its, all that kind of stuff on this particular deck, but it's a lot of effort and there's a lot of weight in this as well. So usually I have 60mm wheels with this as well, just because of the width of this deck. If you don't put big chunky wheels on, it looks ridiculous. So this is really just my mess around kind of cruiser / old school deck. So I wouldn't recommend this if you want to be going around doing a lot of flip tricks and that kind of thing. I wouldn't recommend this if you want to do nose slides, because that is the width of the nose that you've got there. So even ollies on this is relatively difficult. You have to have your foot so far back just to give you that space to move your foot up. So it's a lot of fun, this deck, don't get me wrong, but this is not a good deck for street skating or plaza skating. This is very much bowl skating and transition stuff, or if you like old school 80s stuff like the Santa Cruz Wheels on Fire and Streets on Fire videos, this is the sort of thing that you're going to want to get, but it's more of like a homage to old school skateboarding. So wouldn't really recommend this unless you definitely know what you're doing, or unless it's just a pretty much nostalgia kind of thing that you get in this size deck. So I hope that gives you the information that you need, guys. Like I say, as a quick roundup, anything below 8 really is very, very techy, and you're not going to be doing big drops or gaps. You're going to be doing a lot of flip tricks and manuals to flip tricks, that kind of thing. Flip tricks into manuals, combinations and all that kind of stuff. Anywhere from like 8 to 8.5, that's a very sort of popular size at the moment for a popsicle. That'll be perfect as an all-round size board. You'll be able to do flip tricks, you'll be able to do rails, stair sets, all that kind of thing. Obviously, the wider you go, the more stable it's going to feel under your feet and the more board there is to land on. But you do have to watch out because they get heavier as they get bigger. And then, yeah, last of all, the big old school shaped decks. They're a lot of fun to mess around on, but don't expect to be blasting out huge ollies and landing crazy tray flips and stuff like that. This really isn't designed for techie skating. These kind of boards were around before technical skating even existed, really. It's a completely different style of skateboarding. So this is more for like old school 80s skating and bowl skating as well. Thank you very much for watching. If you got this far, please hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. I'm going to be doing loads of skate related content over the next few months, especially beginner stuff, so setting your board up, trick tips for like ollies, 180s, pop shove-its, all the basic tricks. They're all going to be going live on the channel at some point as well. I just need to get out and film those. So yeah, I'd really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button and also smash that thumbs up as well. And leave a comment below as well. What size deck do you skate and why? I'd love to hear from you guys what you're skating at the moment. So that's it for now, guys. Take it easy. I'll be back with more content soon. Peace.